What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army, and this is your Fanduel NFL Week 8 first look lineup. And we're taking a look at the Fanduel salaries for NFL Week 8. I love doing this beginning of the week. We just finished Week 7. It is late night, Monday night. First look. And of course, before we really want to dive into the player selection, as always, I like to take a look at the game tiles and just get a sense of which of these games just stands out from a fantasy points, scoring, high total perspective. And we'll get to it right at the top here. First game of the slate, Panthers at the Falcons. This one's pretty gross, over under 42, with the Falcons kind of slight home favorites, 4.5 points. Nothing really stands out here for me. Panthers last week, I guess through to DJ Moore a little bit. You've got Donta Foreman and Chuba Hubbard taking split back, splitting the running back snaps. And of course, on the Falcons, similar weird situation with Al Geyer and Caleb Huntley and a bunch of weird running backs. So nothing too exciting about that one. Maybe DJ Moore, but I never play those Falcons pass catchers, man. They don't throw enough on that team. Defenses are both in play, but I would say the Falcons defense definitely playable there. We got the Bears at the Cowboys, 42.5 point total. And this is another one where I'm not really sure at this point that a 42.5 point total with the Cowboys massively favored really stands out to me as something where we want to mess with this game. Maybe the running game for Dallas, but man, it is hard to play Zeke, even with 2 touchdowns last week. He's just only 60 yards. He doesn't do anything in the passing game. He's not breaking 100 yards. So not super exciting, but yeah, I'm sure Zeke Elliott is in play there. Dolphins at the Lions is a sexy game, and I believe this is the game of the week to target. There's a couple of these kind of high-scoring potential games, but this one really stands out for me. Lions at home, they just do great things at home. I'm telling you, something about the Lions when they're at home, they just put up points in that stadium, and their opponents do too. So this is the game that I want to definitely target. I don't know what's going on with Swift and the Lions running game all that much, and I have a hard time trusting it, to be honest. But Miami looked great last week. Tua looked like back to himself, and Raheem Mostert kind of taking over as a full scale running back. So that's a game I want a piece of. Cardinals Vikings, 49 point total. This one stands out as well, and and it could be potentially just as good. Close spread, high scoring game. I'm not in love with Kyler Murray and what he's been doing this season. So, I'm a little bit hesitant there, but the Vikings being at home, 3.5 point favorites, this feels like a spot where Justin Jefferson could blow up. Maybe Adam Thielen does this thing. Dalvin Cook hasn't been great this year. Maybe he turns it around in a game like that. So I'm definitely interested in that one. Another kind of high total game here. We've got the Raiders at the Saints, and the Saints, they're traditionally pretty good against the run. Haven't been like amazing this year, but they're traditionally pretty good against the run, and it creates situations where teams that face them tend to throw a little bit more than they normally do. So if the Saints can kind of stop Josh Jacobs here, maybe we see, Devontae Adams a little more involved. I like this game, though. Olave on the other side is really interesting. I'm not a big play Alvin Kamara on FanDuel guy, but could be interesting as well. Patriots at the Jets, 41 point total. Jets lose Breece Hall for the season. Patriots don't know what the hell they're doing at the quarterback position right now. This one does not stand out to me as a DFS play at all. Hard to think of anybody that I'd be interested in here. Maybe Patriots defense in that one. Steelers at the Eagles. Eagles should absolutely wreck the Steelers. Of course, all the Eagles offensive players are useful. Eagles defense. I like what I've seen, though, I have to say, I like what I've seen out of the kid, Kenny Pickett for the Steelers. And of course, George Pickens also looked amazing last week. But again, not a great spot against the Eagles. That's not a good matchup. So I'd rather be on the Eagles side of this. Now, Jalen Hurts is the most expensive QB on the slate. It's going to be hard to pay up for him. And, his weapons aren't that expensive. So maybe we could take a look at Devontae Smith and, A.J. Brown. But as far as even Miles Sanders a little bit. So, yeah, of interest. Titans at the Texans here. We've got a 40.5 point total. That is horrible. It's really low. It's really low. Texans only getting 1.5 points, so the Titans kind of favored by 1.5 here. And the Texans are at home. And the Titans are a pretty good defensive team. They run it with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry really stands out in a spot like this as a guy who could, have one of his smash games. We haven't seen a traditional Derrick Henry smash game yet this season. Is this the time against the Texans? I mean, it could be it. Texans run defense really, really bad. As far as the Texans side, I mean, the only thing that interests me here is probably maybe a little Dameon Pierce, just because he's such a workhorse and he's locked into 20 touches, targets, and he's severely underpriced on FanDuel this week. So maybe a little bit of interest there. Washington Commanders at the Colts. Colts starting a random rookie, young quarterback, Sam Erlinger. I don't know what's up with that, but Washington defense, I guess, comes into play. Washington starting Taylor Heineke. It's not a good scene, this game. It looks gross. 49ers at the Rams. Rams cannot play when they're up against a quality defense. They just melt. Their offensive line is horrible. I don't know what's going on with Matt Stafford, but this is a bad spot for Rams outside of potentially Cooper Kupp, who always seems to get it done, even in the worst spots. Giants at Seattle. Interesting game. Seattle, similar to Detroit, kind of produces these higher scoring games. Giants winning games this year. Saquon Barkley definitely in play for me. On the Seattle side, do we go back to Kenny Walker here? Giants are a better defense. Maybe. Let's see what the salary looks like for Kenny Walker, K-Dubs. And that's it for the main slate. So let's get over to FanDuel here and start to see if we can put a lineup together based on some of those games that we were excited about. And let's go to the quarterback position first here. And of course, take a look at this. Jalen Hurts is 1,000 above the next lowest priced quarterback, which is not a big deal. I still play Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray, even though Kyler Murray's got potentially a better matchup. But Jalen Hurts does it with his legs a little bit. He's the clear top play, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to just easily afford paying all the way up for him. I like to try to save money at the quarterback position, especially when other quarterbacks are a solid 1,500 or more cheaper. So let's look at some of the other options. Of course, Kyler Murray, 1K below Jalen Hurts here. Murray, he's coming off he doesn't have a single game where you where you needed him this season. So, it's a pass for me. Kirk Cousins, part of that 49-point game total game, also really hasn't had a year with a lot of had-to-have-it games. But the guy I'm really excited about here is Tua Tagovailoa. I told you, I love Detroit home games. Both sides seem to prosper in those spots. Tua has been great for the most part this year. A little bit of a down game last week as they dominated with the run, and he wasn't really able to throw for a lot of touchdowns against Pittsburgh. Will that happen again? I don't know, but I loves me some Tua in this spot. They're going to have to throw more. I think Detroit will need to be scoring in order to press the issue here. And of course, we got to watch out for Raheem Mostert eating all of the fantasy production. Let's just keep going down the list, though, and see if there's anybody else. This is kind of a weird week because there's not, the stud zone at quarterback is kind of non-existent. It's Hurts, and that's about it. And then we're just kind of choosing from regular guys, right? So Daniel Jones on the road, okay. He worked out last week. Domination Station Optimizer over at DFS Army was pumping him into every fucking lineup that you could make. And I was like, what is going on with all this Daniel Jones? But, it knew something that we didn't. So holy shit, what a great game Daniel Jones had last week. And he runs a little bit. I think he's playable as well. Not a safe play, but certainly tournament viable. Jared Goff, I guess if Detroit is doing its thing as part of this Miami game, Goff could have a good game too. It's, he's all over the place. It's more bad than good with Goff, to be honest. Derek Carr is somebody that I just never play in DFS, and it's really worked out for me. I think this spot, if ever he could break out a little bit, this might be it. Again, on the road against Saints team that's technically or traditionally good against the run. Maybe they could stop him. Dak Prescott. This is really a running team at this point in Dallas. I think Dak Prescott is very, very overrated from a fantasy perspective. Jameis Winston / Andy Dalton. I don't know what to say about them. I really don't. I just don't normally go there, and I don't want to change it. Stafford can't play against, hasn't put up a good score this season, cannot play against quality defenses. Down here, Geno, okay. Yeah, I'll have some interest in Geno. Let's see if there's any other quarterback at all that might even get a sniff of interest here. Heineke, not really. Maybe if you want to go all the way down here with these PJ Walker types, and of course, Sam Erlinger is probably hanging out somewhere on this list. I don't feel good about it at all. So let's go with Tua as our quarterback. And the next thing I want to do is go right to the defense position. And the reason I do it is just like to establish my salaries remaining as I'm putting a lineup together. And one of the most important things I do every week early on is just who's the cheapest viable defense. I'm going to end up using these guys a lot, and so will you. Some of these cheaper defenses to afford. Defense is a very volatile position in DFS. So, it's hard to predict. You could predict somewhat. It's not completely non-predictable, but it's definitely more volatile than other spots. And what I like to do as much as possible is pay down on defense. And then later in the week, as things roll on, if I kind of hone in on a defense, I don't mind paying up a little bit, or if we find some value on the slate that opens up the ability to pay up for a defense, that's when we want to do it. So Lions, no, I don't want that. Pittsburgh and Philly, no. Chicago, no. Houston, no. Washington. So here is the defense that I am interested in on the pay down option. Colts are starting a brand new neophyte quarterback, and their biggest problem has been their offensive line. So I don't know that they're going to be able to do a great job protecting Sam Erlinger. I always like to target neophyte quarterbacks with defenses against. So this is an easy $3,400 play. Let me just roll up the list here. There are some other good defenses on the slate, but you got to pay up a little bit more. So let's see here. The Colts in that game are probably playable against Taylor Heineke. We've got the Falcons against Carolina with PJ Walker. The Falcons have been pretty good. I don't trust PJ Walker to be any good, so that one's interesting for me. Raiders, no. Panthers, no. I guess we could bet here on just Arizona being bad. Titans, good defense. You could play them against Davis Mills. Not exciting, but you could do it. San Francisco against the Rams. Yeah, that's fine. 4,500 though. I'm not trying to pay an extra 1,000 for it. Let's see. Any other defenses worth note? New England at the Jets, my beloved New York Jets. Can't trust the Jets. Zach Wilson. I know the Jets are winning games. Zach Wilson's still terrible. So we've got our defense. We've got our prime quarterback. And we know with Tua, we're going to want to get him with probably two of his pass catchers. Tua with Tua, as we like to say. So we'll get to that. And, keep in mind, who are his pass catchers? Well, Mostert caught a touchdown last week, so we're going to count him as a pass catcher potentially. Also, of course, Tyreek Hill. We've got Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki coming off of 7 targets last week, I believe. So Gesicki now all of a sudden back to life. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why. But before we get to that, so we have those in mind, but let's take a look at the running back position and see what the salaries look like to see what we're going to be able to afford here. And right at the top, we've got Derrick Henry, great spot, but $10K, super expensive. But, I'd love to afford that. Saquon Barkley, yeah, love that too. At Seattle, $9,500 though, really, really pricey. Josh Jacobs for $9K. Wow, he's so much more expensive on DraftKings than on Fanduel than DraftKings, but coming off of now what are 3 monster games with really nice volume and just a lot of touchdown upside. But this is not the easiest matchup. Again, Saints have not been as good this year as they had been traditionally against running backs, but it's hard for me to shake that. So I really need to look into that matchup a little bit more and see if anything's changed on the Saints side. But $9K is a little expensive to pay for any running back. And again, if I'm hanging out in this zone, I might want to find my way up here or go down to someone like Christian McCaffrey, Rams, or sent with the 49ers new piece. If we like 49ers defense, of course, we kind of like Christian McCaffrey. Didn't get a big workload last week, but that's because he was new to the team. I think the workload will be massive this week. Why not? I mean, you have a week of practice. What are you waiting for? Kenny Walker, great. 8,400. The only thing of note with Walker is, the target volume hasn't really been there. No targets this past week, 3 the week before, so they can throw to him. Let's, in college, he didn't catch many passes. We'll see what they think of him. Just below him is Jonathan Taylor, and it feels kind of weird to even consider a running back against our defense, but the defense doesn't matter. And this is Jonathan Taylor. I get that there's a crappy young quarterback, or maybe not crappy. I don't know. I mean, they're starting him, but it's like a neophyte quarterback. But I'm interested in Jonathan Taylor, and we're going to keep him in mind. I just want to see, as we continue to scroll down, if there's any bargain guys. So here we got Dalvin Cook, 8,200. I don't really want to go there. Ramondre against the Jets with 8K. I love Ramondre, but with Damian Harris, I got to, unless Damian Harris is limited, not interested. I already talked about Kamara. Not a great FanDuel play most of the time. He's not a touchdown scorer traditionally. I like the price point, though. I like that he's priced below all these studs. DeAndre Swift, great spot, but guy's been hurt. Can't trust that he's going to play. Did not play last week. I don't love players coming off of a long-term injury. Miles Sanders is interesting here at 7,400 as well. This is FanDuel where it's all about the touchdowns. And Sanders, Jalen Hurts likes to get the touchdowns for himself, but Sanders been getting one. He got 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. He's putting up decent, half PPR numbers so far this season. Dameon Pierce at home against Tennessee. We're going to get 20 plus touches from him. It seems like every single week. Look at all this volume for Dameon. I love the volume. I really like this volume. Sorry. So 7,300. We get a starting running back with massive volume. Decent shot at 100 yards and a touchdown. That's a 16-point day. He gets targets. This is a spot I want to keep in mind for one of our RB spots. Zeke Elliott, again, a guy who I just never like to roster, but you can't deny 7, 14, 21. He's getting 2.5. This is kind of cash value in a game where they're massively favored. I could see Zeke smashing in 1 or 2 touchdowns here. Again, I can't pull the trigger because the ceiling isn't there, but I think Zeke probably has a decent floor. Connor out. Benjamin, maybe, but the guy I'm really excited about here is Raheem Mostert. And I know he's negative correlation, or not really, but he's not necessarily positively correlated with his own quarterback. But part of the deal with Mostert is just he's so cheap. 6,800. Let's take a look at his game log from last week. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 16 carries. He's getting almost all of the work for the Dolphins right now. And it's such a great matchup at Detroit. It's hard not to want to play Raheem there at 6,800. And you'll see here, there's not really much else going on as you go less expensive. David Montgomery's a massive underdog in this game, and the team is kind of splitting his touches with Herbert at this point, which just doesn't look good. Michael Carter, it seemed like he was going to get the starting role, and the Jets just traded for Robinson. So that kind of ruins Michael Carter a little bit. I think Robinson and Carter will probably be a 50-50 split. Najee Harris against the Eagles. I don't play anybody against the Eagles. Henderson against 49ers. That is not a good scene. Foreman at Atlanta. Yeah, I don't trust it. Chuba Hubbard will be back, and Foreman had the big game, but I don't trust it one bit. A couple of spots here that might be of interest. Again, these aren't plays I would use on DraftKings, but Algier, he's been okay. He's got some volume, 15 carries a game. This is definitely a Falcons team that wants to run the football. If he gets a touchdown, that's about what you can expect. This 11-pointer at 6,100. It's pretty bad. Brian Robinson's the same kind of player, 50 yards and a touchdown kind of guy. Very difficult to get much more than that for these guys. And the only other guy that we might find somewhere buried down here is James Robinson. I don't even know where he is. I don't remember seeing him. Let's take a look. Oh, he's not even here because they were supposed to play. So they'll probably add him to the player pool late, but whatever. Forget James Robinson. I'm not interested anyway. So we got one running back in there, Raheem Mostert at 6,800. Let's grab another one here that we're comfortable with on the slate. And I'm going to go, let's see if we can get a stud in here. I like this zone. Literally any one of these studs is fine for me. Henry's great. Barkley, Jacobs is okay. McCaffrey. Let's go with McCaffrey here. CM sizzles for 85. I mean, it's like the cheapest you're ever going to see McCaffrey. He's on a team that wants to run the football. I'm down with the C. All right. Down with the C, MC. Here we go. So now tight end position, and then we'll fill out our wide receiver spots. But I feel like because we have Tua, we could just maybe just default. So just top down before we get into it here. I mean, you see that the tight end position is really different because we don't have the Andrews and the Kelsey decision to make. They're off this slate. So Kittle is the most expensive guy. And that's fine for 6,900, but he's coming off a big week. It's 18 points. Great. Taysom Hill, almost always going to get you 7 or 8 fantasy points. Usually score a touchdown, but the upside, it's fine. It's fine. Good play. Hawkinson, usually at his best. Hawkinson's interesting, actually. And, he gives us a little bit of correlation with this game that we're trying to target. So I'm going to monitor and see, who's in or out for the Lions this week. I think Amon-Ra is going to play. He was fine. He plays. Josh Reynolds plays. If Swift plays, I don't know that Hawkinson's going to get a whole lot of run. Zach Ertz is somebody I always like to use at 6K. That's fine. A lot of really good tight end plays here. Freiermuth, I actually wouldn't, if I want to play anything against the Eagles, it might be a tight end, and Freiermuth is fine. Kyle Pitts, no. Waller, no. But Mike Gesicki down here, maybe. He's a maybe. Dalton Schultz at 5K, also interesting, but I'm a little worried about that knee injury that he seemed to sustain. So I think we go with Gesicki because he correlates with Tua, but we'll keep in mind that we can it's not that far of it is actually 1,000 more to get to Hawkinson. So maybe we want to hang out down here, save some money at tight end, hope and pray that we get us a touchdown. He got a bunch of red zone targets last week. So I'm going to make sure to pair Tua up with at least one more of his pass catchers. We got Tyreek Hill up here at 8,700 and Jalen Waddle at 7,800. Waddle didn't really get a ton of looks this past week. Yeah, definitely more for Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's been getting just peppered with. This is the guy we want. Now, the only negative to Tyreek Hill is he's priced really close to Justin Jefferson, and it's like, or Cooper Kupp, who are just better, or Devontae Adams. So it's like, let's keep in mind that the wide receiver zone is super studly up top this week. Again, Kupp, not a good matchup, but it doesn't matter. Kupp always seems to do well, so I think he's kind of matchup proof. Justin Jefferson in a good matchup. I love him at that price. If we could afford Justin Jefferson, I'm all about it. Tyreek Hill, again, more of a pairing with our quarterback than anything else in terms of standalone play, but he's got as much upside as any of these guys. Devontae Adams in a really good spot for a couple hundred less. We got A.J. Brown here, of course. I'm not sure that I love A.J. Brown this week. He's probably in line for more of one of these 7 to 8 target games as opposed to the 10 plus if the game was on paper a little more competitive. Hopkins, okay, but nothing special. Waddle, we already talked about. Tyler Lockett. I don't really know what to do with that situation. It looks like Tyler Lockett will be the only guy on this team with DK Metcalf maybe out a week or two. Tyler Lockett's interesting at the QB position, Debo. But the next guy I want to go with here is actually Amon-Ra St. Brown. And primarily it's because I want to target this game environment, right, for this lineup. So we're already kind of loading up on this, which is the highest projected game, and we could get a bring back with Amon-Ra. If Tua is giving us a ceiling game, it's probably because Detroit is also having a pretty good day. So we've got 6,150 left. Ugh. All right, we'll have to take a look at the last couple spots. I've got an interesting one here that I've been thinking about. So I think we need to, with 6K left, obviously we've got to save some budget. So let's kind of continue to scroll down the wide receiver position. I'll just give a little thought on these guys, but Pittman, no, not with the new quarterback. Not excited about that. Metcalf, not sure he plays. Thomas out. Smith is interesting for me. And Olave. Oh, love Olave. 5,400 left. So the lineup does not work as situated, but I do love me some Olave. Let's keep him in mind this week. Terry McLaurin, not so exciting. Brandon Ayuk, no. Myers, no. Reynolds, Deontay Johnson. Reynolds is much more exciting if Amon-Ra was out. With Amon-Ra in, I like Josh Reynolds, but not at this price. Deontay is a no. DJ Moore, okay. I don't mind that. Adam Thielen playable here at 6,200. Be fine with him. Michael Gallup, just all right. Taekwon, no. Yeah, it gets pretty gross here. The guy I'm going to go with, though, because we need some salary relief, if we're going to play a Christian McCaffrey, or basically I have a choice. Either we get extreme salary relief and we have to hang in this turd zone, or we have to drop one of these two expensive players. You just simply, the math doesn't work. So at the low end, I could play George Pickens, who's coming off a great game, 6 targets, 15 fantasy points, but is not in a good matchup. He's up against the Eagles, but I don't want to let the matchup scare me too much, but it is not the best matchup. But he opens up some salary, 6,800 for our last flex. Let's see what we can get to. You know what? Nothing good. That's what we're getting to. Nothing good. So I believe we need to make an adjustment here from Tyreek Hill down to Jalen Waddle. That leaves us with 7,700, where we can get some decent players in our lineup, be it Pierce, Deebo Samuel is interesting. That could work. I don't really want to play him with Christian McCaffrey, but that could work. But another approach to this slate. So, in this lineup, I'm forced to use Jalen Waddle and George Pickens just for the salary savings, because there's no backup running back for super cheap that we can sort of lean on this week. Another way to go would be maybe to look to pay down at RB2. So we can take a look at like a Miles Sanders, even a Zeke Elliott or a Damian Pierce, who will get lots of targets even in a rough matchup. Go to Jonathan Taylor also, which doesn't save us a ton, but it saves us a little bit. And there you can get to not Tyler Lockett in the flex. Swift would be the perfect bring back if he was starting, by the way. That fits so nicely. This fits together so beautifully. We've got in this situation, we've got Tua, Gesicki, Waddle, and a comeback of Swift and Amon-Ra. Now, again, I don't know that Swift is even going to play, so I'm not starting him here. I don't really love Jamal Williams either. Jamal Williams, look what he does to you. When he's burning you hard. I do think if Jamal was starting, I'd have some interest, but not going crazy. Again, Miles Sanders, we have enough to afford him as well. I really did want to try to get to Tyreek Hill, though. Let me see if we can do a little something here to make it work. If we go to Hill, we got Pickens in there. Basically, we've got 7,650 left. Yeah, there's no one down here that we could play as a running back. So I think the play I really like to play 2 running backs on FanDuel. Just those touchdowns that the running backs get you, they're so valuable. So we are going to have to drop Reek. And I think what I'm going to do here is we'll go down to Waddle, and we'll finish this bad boy out in the flex with any one of these guys. It really should be Swift, but I'm going to plug in Miles Sanders here. Now, Miles Sanders gets a little bit of correlation with the George Pickens, Miles Sanders play, so we get a little secondary correlative play right there. We've got Tua in a game stack with Jalen and Gesicki. Come back on Amon-Ra with Waddle and Gesicki. Jalen. And the comeback on Amon-Ra, George Pickens, Miles Sanders, little back and forth going on right there. And of course, Raheem Mostert also paired up is part of this big game. So yeah, that's going to do it. That's going to be our NFL Week 8 FanDuel first look lineup. Remember, the week is long. A lot of things will happen between now and Sunday. We'll do a ton of research. Players will come out. Injuries will happen. News will hit. So this is an early look. but we get a nice little overview of the state, start making some lineups, and look to build around those games that look exciting this week. We've got the Giants Seattle, looks interesting. We've got Arizona Minnesota and Miami Detroit. Those are the games that look interesting and look like the ones to target. So let's see how it plays out. Remember, if you liked what I'm doing here, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you can get updates as soon as we come out with our new First Look FanDuel, DraftKings First Look. We got our betting shows. We've got, of course, Tournament Tactics, that everybody loves on Fridays. We got the Showdown Breakdown every Wednesday night, breaking down showdowns. And, of course, if you're not signed up for DFS Army, get over there now. Promo code GEEK gets you 10% off VIP. Just do it. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.